Remember in the last video I told you that I'm just seeing fractions everywhere around me. Well, the other day when I drove to school and I looked down at my speedometer, at the bottom of my speedometer is my petrol gauge. And I saw straight away that it's been divided into fractions. There's 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts. And when it gets to the end, that would mean that this has been divided into quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. My petrol gauge has been divided into 4 equal parts. And at the moment, this is telling me that I am here. I only have 1 of those equal parts full of petrol. So I've got 1/4 of my petrol tank is full. And then I thought, what are these little dots doing here at the bottom? And then I realized that this must link to equivalent fractions. Because here at the bottom, they've divided that 1/4 up into 4 little parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. So guys, what do you think the denominator is going to be if I just took these little sections and continued doing them all the way to the end? What will my denominator be then? What will my new denominator be? Think about it, and then we'll see if you're correct. Have you got it? Yes, I hope you got 16ths, because that's exactly right. Remember, these parts are equal. So if 4 of those blocks fit in the first part, then we would have another 4 in the second part, another 4 in the third part, and another 4 in the last part. And there we go. 4 groups of 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Now, how many 16ths of my petrol gauge is full? Well, we saw here 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 16ths. Now, are those equivalent fractions? Well, let's think about what we learned. She said you can check if a fraction is equivalent if you can times or divide the numerators by the same number. So here, to get from 1 to 4, I had to times it by 4. And if I had to times the bottom, 4 times 4, yes, I get 16. So that is correct. 1/4 is equivalent to 4 16ths. Now, if I go down to my next picture, I wanted to show you what my petrol gauge looked like when it was full. So here you can see the 16 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there they have broken it up into 16ths. But I've still got my quarters at the top. So here I've got quarters at the top. Remember, there are 4 equal parts. And in this case, I've got all of the equal parts full. But if I was using the fractions at the bottom, then I would say that I've got 16, oh, sorry about that, 6 of the 16 equal parts. Okay, it's hard to type with a mouse, write with a mouse, guys, but your writing would look a lot neater than this. And we know that as soon as we've got something where the numerator and the denominator are the same, it's equal to 1 whole. So we can say that 4/4 is equal to 16 16ths, which is equal to 1. So I've got my whole petrol tank full here. And those are also equivalent fractions. 4 times 4 is 16, and it would be the same at the bottom. So definitely an equivalent fraction. Right, let's have a look what was going on here. I had driven around a bit, and now I could see why they did those little rectangles at the bottom. Because it's very hard to read this out in quarters. How much of my petrol tank is full? I've got 1, let me use blue rather. I've got 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and a bit, because that goes over. So in this case, it would be easier for me to answer in 16ths. And how many 16ths are full? Well, we know there's 4 in 1/4, so 4, 8, 12, plus the one little piece that's over would give me 13. Now, what would the equivalent fraction there be in quarters? Well, remember, we've got to be able to do the same thing to the numerator and to the denominator. So I can see to get from 16 to 4, they were dividing by 4, which means that I would have to divide by 4 here. And 13 divided by 4 you can't do. So in this case, there is not an equivalent fraction from the top of my petrol gauge and the bottom of my petrol gauge. Let's have a look at another example. This is the full, oh no, this isn't the full one. This is also, there's my 1/4, and it's just gone 1 block over that. Do you know what my fraction will be here? Will my denominator be a 4 for quarters, or will it be 16ths? Yes, it's going to have to be 16ths, because it has gone over the quarter. So there I've got 4 and 1 more, which is 5. Again, if I wanted to make an equivalent fraction for that, over quarters, which is my top of my petrol gauge, 16 divided by 4 would give me 4, but 5 divided by 4, I cannot do at the moment. I don't want to use remainders in that. So this does not work. Okay, let's go down to here. I've got a full petrol gauge. I was wondering if it was there, if my petrol went up to there, how much petrol, what fraction of my petrol gauge is full? Yes, that's right. That would be 3/4. And if I wanted to know what the equivalence was in 16ths, it would be 4, 8, 12. And if I want to check if I'm correct, I can see 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. So they are equivalent fractions. Now, we're going to have a look at a few questions for you to figure out if some fractions are equivalent or not. And remember to think about your timesing and your dividing. Also, you might be asked to fill in the missing number to see what the equivalent fraction was. For example, if I had 3/5 is equal to so many tenths, how would I find out what that missing number is? Well, that's when you've got to use your times and divide. So look at the numbers where they've given you both of them, in which case this is the denominators. And 5 times 2 would give me 10. And because I have 2 at the bottom, I would have to have 2 at the top. So 3 times 2 would give me 6. And then I have made an equivalent fraction. And they might give it to you slightly differently. They might give you 12/20ths is equal to how many fifths? And then again, I'm looking here at the bottom. I would say 20. This time I'm going smaller, so I would be dividing. 20 divided by 4 gives me 5. So I would have to divide 12 by 4, which would give me